Hi everyone, this is Sachin from Teja. Sorry you can't see my video today because of some technical issues, but anyway, good evening and welcome to our first webinar of 2021. A very warm welcome to our first time attendees. We hope you enjoy this session and get some good takeaways. I would like to tell you a bit about Teja. Teja is a platform for mindfulness and positivity that was born last year with an intention to bring a positive shift, especially when everything around us forced us to look at life differently and reassess what is actually important. So Teja's mission is to introduce mindfulness techniques that are simple yet powerful and have the potential to shift our thinking. And with greater awareness in our thinking, we are able to attract a better life, not just for us, but for people around us. We are grateful that last year we could host 15 webinars and connect our audience with some fantastic personalities in personal growth. We loved hearing from you all how the webinars have been helping you unlock your potential and thrive and grow. Now, before I invite Kalyani to start today's webinar, some basic housekeeping rules. Please keep your profile on mute. You can use the chat window to say something if you want to, and then we strongly recommend you have a pen and paper handy for the assessment sessions. With that, I'll hand you over to Kalyani.
Thank you very much. Very, very warm welcome to everyone tonight. And also, we'd like to extend a warm welcome to our attendees who are here for the first time. So we thought, Jayanti and I thought we will take this opportunity to introduce ourselves as well. Apologies for the siren in the background. So my name is Kalyani. I am an architect by training. I work in sustainability in New South Wales government. My passion and interest is in personal growth, mindfulness, and specifically dynamic meditation. So a couple of years ago, my sister Jayanti and I, we actually did a course, a 4-day immersion course in dynamic meditation called the Silva Mind Method. If you may be familiar of Jose Silva, who was not a psychologist, but very passionate in the area of how the mind works and what exactly is, how the mind is influenced and how you can actually have an infinite mind, so to say. So we were very impressed and we were very thankful that we could do this program and gain so much out of it. And even with whatever we've learned and whatever little we have applied, so we do practice on a daily basis, but with whatever we've applied, I think it's safe to say that we've really able to achieve some goals that we, if perhaps without this practice couldn't have achieved. So because the impact was so powerful in our lives, we came up with this idea, especially last year, as Sachin mentioned, when everything around us was, it's negative. You're forced to be inside your home and forced to look inward because you're not meeting anyone else. You kind of automatically find out what is important to me, what are my priorities. So we thought this is the time when you can really build on this looking inward with a positive shift and look at how that impacts how you live life outwards. That's how Teja was born. So we've done 15 webinars and we had the opportunity to bring some really good speakers, people that we really had fun collaborating with. I'll let Jayanti talk a bit more and then we'll introduce our in-house expert psychologist as well. Jayanti.
Thanks, Kalyani. It's been really nice hearing about where we started and where we've come. So I'm really happy everyone who has participated in every webinar has been a significant contribution. So for the people who are new, a little bit about me. I am a researcher by profession, and I am in biomedical research, and I've had quite a journey myself with my mental health and spirituality. So when Kalyani suggested that, hey, why don't we do something that gives us a sense of contribution and fulfillment, fulfillment. Why don't we build a platform where we can share the tools and techniques that we use all the time? Of course, some of this has come from the Silva method. From our own thirst for personal growth, we do a lot of reading and research for ourselves. So it really helps when we share it with other people. And speaking of my mental health journey, I've um, I've been through quite an intense mental health journey that sort of changed my life. A lot of people around me saw this happening. Nana, my mother, was one of them, and she was a witness to my mental health journey. She was a part of my mental health journey, and this sort of also inspired her in a way to take up therapy again. And she's training herself on some very advanced and interesting methods of therapy. So we're really glad to have her on board with this, uh, to act as our psychologist throughout this whole process. So Naina, do you want to say something?
Yeah, thank you, Jayanti. Thank you, Kalyani. You have been inspiration for me to take up therapy again. And currently, I am completing my EMDR therapy training and almost on the verge of completion of it. And I really thank all of you to inspire me to get into it again. And it's very satisfying if you can show some people a way out of their stuckness, or sometimes, it's all, the solutions are all with them. It's just a matter of somebody helping them unfolding that. And I feel that it's very useful and very satisfactory thing to do, because I believe that there is a tremendous need of such kind of platforms, and there is a real dearth of it. So thanks for launching, Teja.
Yeah, yes, thank you. So I think this webinar, we thought we should start with the assessment, because usually we talk about the topic, and the topic is self-love, which I heard from so many people that it's intriguing. What exactly is self-love, and sometimes confusing as well. But before we share anything about our take on it, or our experience and what we've read in our research, I think without any bias, we all need to immerse into this quick self-assessment, which will give us some more clues, and then we can then go deeper into the different aspects that we've got prepared for you today. So I'll hand over to Naina, who will do the self-assessment. I would suggest you have your pen and paper handy so you can mark yourself.
Yeah, till the time, Kalyani, till the time she is setting up the screen for your view, I would suggest that on your paper you just write down numbers 1 to 15, in rows. Just put down 1 to 15 on your page. This is a very, very simple kind of a series of statements, 15 statements coming forward. And I just have to look at each statement, read it, and see how much it applies to me on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 meaning it rarely applies to me, 5 meaning it mostly applies to me. So in between 1 to 5, you can give your scores according to with what intensity these statements apply to you. It's very simple. Those are very simple statements. But I just have to very quickly, not too much thinking over it, spontaneously, I just have to respond with a score. When you have written 1 to 15, in place of, in front of 1, you will have to write the score which you assign to statement 1, like that. So Kalyani, can we have the screen?
Yeah, so can you see the slide, everyone? And can let me know if you can put a thumbs up, or you can tell me in the chat if you can read it. Okay. We've got the points 1 to 8 on this slide, and then 9 to 15 will be on the next one. So please give yourself a score without overthinking. Just prompt. As you read the statement, just put a prompt score from 1 to 5. Shall we move to the next set of questions? Is everyone done with this 1 to 8? So can you let me know thumbs up or in the chat if you've completed the questions up to 50? So I guess most of you have completed the questions. Naina, would you like to share the
Right.
analysis?
If you can share the next screen of just let people know like uh, where do I stand. So for that, what I have to do is add up my score for statement 1, 6, 10, 12, and 14. If that is done,
Yep, done.
the next set is you can add up to statement 2, 5, 9, 13, and 15.
Done.
Right. The last set is 3, 4, 7, 8, 11. Now, if it is done, you can name the first set of the first addition as P. P. It stands for P. The second set is AG. And the third one is AS. So you have three numbers, three additions. One is P, then AG, and then AS. We will understand the interpretation of these in a while when we are while we are having our discussion on self-love.
To those who joined in a bit late, you can always, this session is being recorded, so you can always go back and view the recording and do the self-assessment in your own time. Shall we move to the next part?
Yes, Swati wants to see the screen again, just for a few
Oh,
seconds.
okay, sure. Yes.
So screen number 2. And then we go to the next part.
Yeah. So I think this is the part where once we start discussing what is not self-love, we'll probably be able to correlate what the scores mean when we talk a bit more about this. I'll ask Naina to tell us a bit more about what is not self-love.
Right. If you can see the screen, there are some few words written that how we confuse self-love with some other different terms and some other different concepts. This whatever we have done as a assessment is not a very scientific kind of a psychometric test by itself, but it's an indication. It's just an indication based on what we experience our behavior as in many situations. How do we behave? So many times it so happens that when we talk about self-love, people feel that is it selfishness? If I love myself, does it mean I'm selfish? Some people even think that, okay, if it is self-love, means does it mean that I am a narcissist? Or will it reflect that if I am loving myself, will it reflect to other people that I am an egoistic person? So these are the terms, or these are the concepts which we confuse self-love with many a times. But then if we see what is being narcissist, when we come across some people who are really narcissists, it is in fact a kind of pathological position, or it's a kind of sickness, where you see people having a huge sense of self-importance, or grandeur, feeling so great about themselves that I am the great person, or they exaggerate their own abilities or talents or whatever accomplishments they have so far made. They would always talk in a grand way about these, and in fact, in every social meeting or anywhere, they want that uh, you know they are craving for admiration or attention or acknowledgement of what they are. They believe that the world owes them something, or they don't even they can go to the extent of exploiting others for their own achievement or accomplishment, and probably most of the time they lack empathy. So this is in short, like what a narcissist would look like. But self-love isn't at all being narcissist. We'll talk about what actually self-love is. But then if I'm confusing self-love with, say, egoism is mostly out of insecurity. Insecurity in terms of, when I lack self-esteem, I have low self-esteem. To camouflage that, I would use this as, the egoism is a behavior which is displayed, which is denial of my own feeling of low self-esteem, and I am projecting that I am something different than really I am. And it's also like, egoist people always need that their share of limelight, or they always want to be center of attraction in any given situation. Now, selfishness, how it comes in and how it is different from self-love. Selfishness mostly comes from scarcity thinking. Like, this is only this much available, I will be the first one to grab it, or I must get the big share of it or the best of it. I don't care where are others. Okay. And it is like, it is a focus which is very unhealthy focus, selfishness. And there's no reason to confuse self-love with selfishness. When we talk about self-love, what is self-love? How it healthy self-love. I would always like to call it not only self-love, but healthy self-love. So the healthy self-love comes from the belief that I am unique, I am lovable, and I am worthy. I am fallible. I may lack something, I may have some weaknesses, but I accept that I have weaknesses and I am striving to improve. Then I accept myself unconditionally. No, not that I must do these things, then only I am lovable. I am lovable as it is. And maybe that I have certain things which I have to improve upon, but I am a person, I am a human being who deserves love and care from others and from myself. I don't need to, when I am expressing self-love, I don't need to justify my behavior to others, whatever it is, whatever the behavior. For example, I had a friend whom I gave a full chocolate, Cadbury chocolate, and she immediately is putting that into her handbag. I asked her, like, I have given it to you. So she says, no, how can I have the whole, or how can I have it first? So I need a justification for even having a small piece of chocolate. So this is like, this is like how I am programmed, how I have programmed myself. Because I feel self-love is selfishness, because I confuse self-love with selfishness. So we'll go ahead with that. And I would also like to ask Kalyani and Jayanti, like, sometimes self-care is also sometimes confused as what is healthy self-care and what is a kind of, some superficial pampering, I call it. So I can ask Kalyani or Jayanti if they can have some experience or they can share something on this.
Yeah, sure. So I think, again, that is sometimes confused with self-love. Sometimes I think this is very common in just day-to-day conversations. If you're chatting with your friend and they'll say, oh, you work too hard, time for some self-love. Maybe you should go and get a massage or a pedicure. So totally honest, I love getting pampered like that. And I think there's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's something you need to do from time to time, because if you do it with the perspective that I deserve this and it's like a reward for whatever I've been doing, that's great. But if you're looking for some kind of solution by these self-care, physical, superficial uh, experiences, you're not going to be able to, you're not going to find the solution that you're looking for, in my view. So if you're feeling low self-esteem, or you probably had an incident at work or somewhere where you didn't feel adequate, if you go out, there's this natural urge that I knew people who, when they were depressed, they went and bought shoes and they said, this is my, my therapy, retail therapy. Sure, you'll feel great for some time. Afterwards, you'll feel really guilty about spending the money as well. And you probably bash yourself up going, I had a really bad day and I spent so much money and I bought something totally unnecessary. So how are you going to feel afterwards? So that's not necessarily, some kind of indulgence is not necessarily the answer, because at the moment you'll feel like that's your outlet, but it really isn't. It's somewhere deeper than that. And I think people probably don't know what they need to do when they're feeling that inadequacy. So when you practice self-love, which Jayanti will also be talking about some really simple techniques, you'll realize slowly but surely when you build them as habits, less and less urge. I'm not saying you'll stop shopping, can't guarantee that. But maybe you'll shop out of joy, not because you're lacking something, not because of inadequacy. Jayanti, what do you think?
Oh yeah, I 100% agree with what you said, and I think we're all guilty of sometimes just seeking something, a kind of validation that comes to us more easily than something more reflective, something deeper. So I think it's much easier to just quickly seek validation. That's always a tempting option, but definitely that's not the purest form of self-love, in my opinion. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Maybe people can also voice their opinion in the chat if they want to talk about this. Maybe
Yeah,
guys.
till the time people are also wanting to tell us about their experience of how these superficial methods work, I would say that these are symptomatic. We are giving a symptomatic kind of a treatment, not going to the root cause, but just treating the symptoms. So maybe that for some short period of time it is useful, but may not be for longer, or it's not the solution.
Yeah, absolutely. So if anyone would like to share a bit more, uh, or you can share towards the end, we'll allow some time for discussion maybe. Or if anyone would like to share their thoughts on self-love and how it's not selfishness, narcissism, or ego, we'll love to hear your point of view as well. In the meantime, let's move on, and when you type in something, we'll have more discussion on that. So the next thing about self-love is relationship with self. So I believe that I've heard this when like Jayanti mentioned, we do a lot of reading and we're curious about personal growth, and we follow Mind Valley. So if you are new to like personal development, I would highly encourage you to look up Mind Valley. Their YouTube, their Instagram, they've got really great quality content, and they've got a wide variety of courses that you can go for. And they're like short few weeks, like a quest for a few weeks, and there's a lot of learning and a lot of subject matter experts as well. So that's definitely one platform. And then there's a few different places where I kept reading the same thing, that every relationship or every experience you have outside is actually a reflection of you. In fact, my coach and mentor, she was saying, just I was listening to one of her videos today, she was actually even saying that you have Facebook and you're just scrolling through your Facebook, looking at your feed, and all of us know Facebook is so clever, the algorithm is like very, very clever. She said even that is a reflection of what's going on within you. And I thought, really? But I kind of thought it was true, because if you're probably thinking about, when it was COVID, how many cases, or the economy is going down, or whatever else, then that's the kind of surrounding you are, and that's the kind of thoughts your subconscious is absorbing, and that's the kind of things you keep seeing. It's like when you plan to buy a red car, all you see is a red car. Oh yeah, red car, red car, red car. So it's kind of like that, where your dominating thoughts is what is reflecting outward. So if the relationship with yourself is somewhere not adequate, and as Nayana said, your ego is like the reverse end of the spectrum. So within you, you're feeling kind of insecure, and that's why the extreme need to portray that you're superior. So the need for showing that you're superior or better usually originates from the insecurity deep within you. And people who are really up there, knowledgeable, and subject matter experts, so forth, they are lifelong learners. I've observed a lot of achievers, and the one thing I've observed common to all of them is that they have this thirst for knowledge, and they always think that they never know enough, that they want to know more, and they just want to get better and better. So that relationship with yourself, the more honest you are with yourself, the more the quality of relationships around you improves. So I'll give you a simple example. One morning, if you get up and you stab your toe at the edge of the bed and you go, damn, this is such a bad day, it's an unlucky day, you'll miss your bus, you'll have, your boss will be very annoyed with you, and things just happen in that negative cycle, and you catch your self-talk and you think, that's what it is. So one simple thing, and you kept the negative thought with you, and that's how the day played out for you. So one of Mind Valley speakers called Christina Mann, she did this experiment where she asked someone from the morning till lunchtime to actually write down, like physically in a book, all the thoughts that came to her mind. So this person did it, like when they woke up and they brushed their teeth and they had a shower and getting ready for work. So what are the thoughts that are going on in your mind? This person actually wrote them down. And then she met her friend at lunchtime in a cafe. And she actually had to give the notebook to the friend. And the friend had to read out that conversation with herself as if she's saying it to the friend. So if I've written about myself, oh, I'm looking fat, I really need to lose weight, or my hair is looking so bad today, I wish I would have blow dried my hair. I wish I would have woken up a bit early today. Everything's in a rush today. I'm not at the best of my game. Things like that. And imagine your friend reading it out to you. Oh, you look fat today. You should have woken up early today. You didn't do that well today. And people around who were listening to the conversation thought, my God, that's a very rude friend. But the reality is that you won't say this to your friend, but you keep saying it to yourself. So you catch your own self-talk and you realize that that's what is playing out in your life outside. And often when you become aware of it, you realize, okay, hang on, what if I switch my thinking? What will happen? And something amazing will happen. So the day you will encounter people smiling at you, the day you'll encounter someone will hold the door open for you, the day you'll encounter you're walking and the bus is just approaching at the bus stop for you. Simple things like that. So I think the more you become aware of your thought, the more these coincidences will happen in your life. In fact, they're not coincidences. They are happening because you're tuning in the frequency of your mind there. So I think that relationship with yourself, and we're all guilty of negative self-talk. In fact, most 85% or even 90% of it is mostly negative. But when you practice becoming aware, you can change it. And even a slight change can make a big difference. What are your thoughts, Jayanti and Naina?
Yeah, I see some interesting expressions in the chat box, where people have written that about, self-care. So if you have some budget for your self-care as well, sometimes, it is a matter of your acceptance first, and then once you accept that it is you are worthy of that, then it is for others to accept. When we start the reverse way, like whether people will accept this, whether people will feel I am overindulgent, where people, so if I am not convinced, how am I going to convince others? If I am convinced that I am worthy of this, and then I don't have to justify that. So that is self-love. When sometimes, suppose even sometimes you have to justify why you're getting up late. Some people, they put up reasons. I slept so late last night. I felt like sleeping. It's a holiday today. I felt like sleeping more, so I'm sleeping. It's that simple. But, sometimes people feel that you owe all justifications to others for simple things. That probably is a reflection that I don't find myself worthy of taking that extra rest on a day when I am on a holiday. What do you think, Jayanti?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I was thinking about Gayatri's comment about self-care, particularly, and maybe an act of self-care done very mindfully, knowing that this is something I'm doing for myself. I think that reflection is a sign of self-love, even though the act of self-care might seem superficial, like taking an Uber instead of getting the bus, or The example that she gave about like setting a small budget. So it's not very impulsive and indulgent. So I think if you're doing it mindfully, that definitely translates the self-care into self-love.
Yeah, because it is not covering up something. It is like when you say mindfully, that is very important.
Absolutely. And I think the justification part comes from when you are not convinced that you deserve it. I think that's the sad part about the self-care always being confused with selfishness. And that's the reason why you feel like you want to justify all the time to whoever's around you that this is not selfishness. This is, I deserve it. But if you're convinced within that you're deserving of it, you don't feel the need to explain that to anyone. And the more you treat yourself the way you would like others to treat you, you do get that treatment from others. So it's not about saying that you're full of yourself or you're bragging about yourself or boasting. But I guess again there's a fine line between being proud of who you are versus boasting or bragging about who you are. But someone who is, if you look at high achievers, why are you so attracted to them? What is this magnetism about them? It's the fact that they are so sure of themselves, the fact that they have self-love, and that's where the confidence comes from. And that's the reason why others treat them with respect, because they surely do treat themselves with respect. And I think each one of us deserves to do that. It's not just about setting the bar as being a high achiever. What do you think?
Yeah, we need to respect ourselves with all the mistakes we have done or weaknesses we have, even with that.
Yeah, and when we were discussing earlier, and I was saying that we respect ourselves with the weaknesses we have, but that's not an alibi to say that, oh, I am like that, so what? It's about, okay, I am that, but maybe I have an opportunity to improve or learn from someone else or learn from something that I'm reading or something that I'm watching. There's so much inspiration around. So accepting where you're at is the first step, I guess. And when you accept, that's when you're actually even motivated to go beyond that. So accept who you are as you are, but don't make it an alibi. Remember to build on it. And when you see the evidence of building on it, your self-love will grow. That's for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with that.
So thank you everyone for sharing in the chat as well. I encourage you to share more as we go. We'll move on to the next section, which is Jayanti will talk about self-compassion.
Yeah, so this is a subject that I find really important and not talked about enough, the subject of self-compassion. But I want to start with a very basic level of understanding self-pity versus self-compassion, because a lot of people feel like, oh, if I am sort of being nice to myself, does it, I don't want to, I don't want to be self-loathing. I don't want to slip into a mode where I'm pitying myself. And this is not by any means a thin line, just saying it's a very thick strap. And I think the main difference that comes, that's between self-pity and self-compassion in my understanding is that self-pity is a lot about something external or outward. I want to give an example. I don't know if Binny is here, probably not, but if she watches this again at some point of time, then I want to go back to Binny, because Binny was somebody with whom we had a one-on-one session about our goal setting webinar. So Binny was talking about a situation about her work. And I found that this is so common, right? Oftentimes we'll have a disagreement with someone, a colleague or superior, something like that, and just a day-to-day unpleasant situation, something external like self-pity mode would be, I have to bear with this horrible boss, superior colleague, and poor me, or that's victim mode. And we had we had a very elaborate conversation with Amrit in September about the 4 levels of consciousness. So he has explained it much better. But just to touch base on it, the first level, the lowest level level is a victim kind of stage where you just don't have any control. And that's bad, right? Because you're literally just giving all your feelings, you're putting everything in not in your hands, you're just leaving it for other people to see how they make you feel, versus taking that steering wheel into your own hands. So that's when you slip into self-loathing, self-pity. You go, poor me, I'm suffering a lot. It's because of these people, and if only they were to change, I'll be a happier person. So that's a classic example of self-pity. Whereas what if I walked out of that meeting and I said, well, what's in my hand? Maybe this situation, or I can't change my boss, I can't do much about this situation at the moment, but when the steering wheel comes in my hand, which direction do I want to drive this into? And I can say, okay, the other end of the spectrum is being very self-critical and saying that this is all my fault, I'm a failure, I'm really bad at whatever I do, that's why my boss is unhappy. But let's see where we can meet in between, where we can say, oh, well, you know what, maybe today was just not the best day, or maybe, you know what, I'm human, I'm allowed to do something different, or I'm allowed to be different, I'm allowed to have a different opinion from my boss, I'm allowed to be something other than what he or she expected. So if you just move this conversation into giving yourself more control, more power, and saying, hey, how can I be kinder to myself? Not pitiful, but kinder to myself. How can I understand, having more empathy to myself? So that's where self-compassion really comes into picture. Should we move on to the next slide? Okay. Oops, before that. Yeah. So I've come up with a small activity of journaling. I like to call this something like micro journaling, because a lot of times when I tell people, you have time to take a journal, people always think I'm not artistic enough, I don't have the right words for it. So I want to introduce this idea of just micro journaling. Just write 2 sentences, just write a few words before an important event, before you're going into something that you know will trigger you. So there is the person who has researched a lot on the subject of self-compassion. Her name is Dr. Christine Neff, and she's at the end of the webinar. We've got her in the references if you want to look up. It's very, very, very simple techniques that she uses for journaling, meditation. She has been researching on the subject of self-compassion for a long time. But I've taken a little bit of a gist from what her ideas are into a micro journaling sort of practice. So she says that there are 3 components to self-compassion. The first component is kindness. Okay, and Kalyani explained it so well earlier about the kind of talk we have with other people versus the kind of talk we have with ourselves. We are so brutal and harsh to ourselves. And people say, love thy neighbor as thyself. I feel like I want to say the opposite. How about you love yourself as much as you love the neighbor? Maybe you look at the neighbor and you think, oh, they're very attractive, perfect body, looks like they earn a lot of money, looks like they're very rich. And you're usually like thinking about the neighbor from a more likable perspective, whereas for yourself, you wake up in the morning and think, I'm fat, I don't earn enough money, self-critical, right? So kindness is really important, because we're so kind, we're sometimes kinder to other people than ourselves. So that's why the first question that I want to ask you, you can write it in your journal, type it in the chat window now, or just reflect on it later. But the question, in a situation which is unpleasant for you, think to yourself, what would a kind friend say to me? I'm not going to say what would a friend say to me, because you might say, I have some friends who are really nasty and they say mean things to me all the time. So what would a kind friend say to me? So I'm going to say, today I'm not Jayanti, today I'm Jayanti's kind friend. And the kind friend is going to say to me something like, hey, you know what? This is what your boss said to you. It's okay. It wasn't so bad. Other people don't have it perfect. Other people also struggle. Something like that, So think about what a kind friend might say to you. Step yourself out of your own shoes and into the kind friend's shoes. So that's the first question you can answer, is like, what would a kind friend say to me? And it doesn't have to be a difficult situation. Just think right now. Think about you being a kind friend, and what would you say to yourself if you were that kind friend? Would you say that, hey, I'm proud of you? Would you say, hey, you look beautiful today? What would you say to yourself? So you can start typing that in the chat window right now. And then I'll move on to the next segment until you type something about what a kind friend would be saying to you right now. So have a think about that. Type something, and then we'll talk about the next segment, which is humanity. So Dr. Christine Neff talks a lot about, her research is a lot about the difference between self-esteem and self-compassion. Don't worry, this shall pass too. I love that. Yeah, your kind friend will always say that to you, right? Everything is temporary, it will pass, 100%. So yeah, think about what a kind friend will say to you. The problem with self-esteem is, as Naina or Kalyani was saying before, it's really good to have a good self-esteem. It's really important. But oftentimes what happens is a lot of self-esteem work focuses on, or poor self-esteem is linked to comparison, right? So you always, it's thinking about, how can I uplift my self-esteem by proving that I am no less than any other person? And that's where the ego comes in. That's where you start projecting these feelings of superiority. You start putting other people down while you're not happy within, in your heart, you're not happy about yourself anyway. So, while self-esteem speaks about comparison, self-compassion speaks about humanity. It's not asking how we're different from others. It's asking how we're similar to others. So if you're in a position where you're sort of feeling unpleasant, maybe something like you're feeling anxious. Have other humans been anxious? I mean, surely you must know some other humans who have been anxious at some point of time, or some other humans who have been stressful at some point of time. You're not the only person who is experiencing stress or anxiety. Imagine if you were sitting in a restaurant and you just felt like crying. You had this urge to cry, and you started crying, and you're like, oh my God, I'm so ashamed of myself because I'm crying in a public place. Ask yourself this question: am I the only person ever who has cried? Surely you're not the only person. You must know other people who have cried in front of you during your whole life. So the question that goes is, how is this situation similar to other people? Have other people felt this way? Am I the only person? And that takes away the shame, that takes away the difficulty, that kind of asks us this question about how human we are, because we all are. Nobody ever is perfect, right? We're all working towards becoming better versions of ourselves, and we're allowed to make mistakes. It's human. So that's humanity, which is the second component of self-compassion journaling. So the last component is mindfulness. And mindfulness is about, how are you feeling right now? So you ask the question, how am I feeling right now in this moment? You know, and there are various mindfulness techniques, like just sitting still, breathing, experiencing your breath. There are very simple techniques like, okay, what are 5 things I can smell? What are 5 things I can feel? So just being more present in the moment. The other question that you can write down is, how am I feeling right now in this particular moment? And sort of just addressing or labeling those feelings really helps, instead of thinking constantly we're living in the future. There's anxiety about the future, there's depressive feelings of the past, and it's like, where do I go? You have to be in the present moment. So mindfulness is a very important aspect of self-compassion journaling. So these are 3 aspects of it. The 3 questions, I'm just going to repeat them for you. These are my 3 questions. You might want to change them a little bit for yourself, as long as they revolve around these 3 components. So the first question is, what would a kind friend say to me? The second question is, how is this similar to what other humans feel? Have other humans felt this way? Have other humans done this? And surely there must be somebody else, even if it's a brutal crime like committing a murder. Other humans have committed murder. Sorry for going to the extreme end of the spectrum, but this is true, right? And the last bit is mindfulness. So be in the present moment. And that's my little self-compassion micro journaling exercise for you. So try this at home, try this at any point of time when you're in a difficult situation, and let me know how it goes for you. Naina, do you have anything to say? What would a kind friend Naina say to Naina?
Yeah, the kind friend would always tell me something very soothing. The kind friend would always tell me, oh, it is not that horrible as you are thinking. It happens and it's okay. There will be more of acceptance of me.
That's true. That's true. What would kind friend Kalyani say to Kalyani? What do you think?
Because you gave that example of the work situation, and I've been through some like horrible bosses situation as well, but I think I'm so fortunate now that I've got such a lovely boss who I can connect with, even more mindfully. And I kind of feel that if you're on the right frequency, you actually attract these things in your life. So I feel like very, very lucky to have a great boss who is also a friend, kind friend. So uh, she definitely will say, you have my full support, you know. Uh, she'll literally challenge me to go out of the box and say, just do it. And, remember that I have your back, something like that. Someone saying that I have your back gives you enormous strength.
Yep, I agree with you. I think it's great, and I really encourage you all to go to Dr. Christine Neff's website. It won't take much time because there are very short exercises. If nothing else, at least think about these three components and think about how can I be kinder to myself. Give yourself permission to be kinder. And people often have this misunderstanding that if I'm kinder to myself, perhaps I'll be cruel to other people. But I think research, especially Dr. Christine Neff's research, has shown the total opposite of that, that people who are kinder to themselves are actually kinder to other people also, and they show up as better versions of themselves. So that's I hope you enjoy this activity. And over to Kalyani.
Thanks, Jayanti. That's really great and great insight into Christineness and doing uh, doing some of the mindfulness and micro journaling. I actually like the idea of micro journaling because journaling seems like too much commitment sometimes. But yeah, micro journaling seems to be, when the sound of the activity is easy, you're more likely to do something, I guess. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah. So I think so far we've had some great insights in terms of what is not self-love, and how it's actually not being selfish, because when your cup is empty, how can you even pour anything for anyone else? And I know that a lot of us, whether it's because of the conditioning, because of the culture, because of the upbringing, or whatever influences we've had, it's all about you know putting others first. It's really important that what will others say about me, what will others think about me. All of this plays a very, very big part, and it really has influenced our subconscious mind in that way. So you should realize though that if you don't love yourself, and if your cup is not full, you can never fill others' cup. And if your cup is empty, in fact it is quite harmful to you, because you'll end up being very, very depleted, and that's obviously not healthy for you and not healthy for people around you. So take time to fill your cup. Yes, indulge in self-care mindfully, but I encourage you to take time to fill your cup through very small activities, like just a little bit of introspection, no heavy duty meditation sitting for hours or nothing like that. And like Jayanti said, just awareness, micro journaling, or even just talking to someone who you think will listen to you without judgment and give you some inspiration, things like that. So I would suggest carve out some time for this, because everyone is busy, everyone is running around doing whatever to the best we can, but make yourself a priority, invest in yourself, and give yourself some time, if not every day, at least a few times a week to get into activities that will fill your cup. So with that, I'm just going to take you through a very, very simple meditation. I don't know if I can play a background track. Let me check. I'm not sure if you may be able to hear it though. So, but I'll play it anyway. Let me know if you can hear it, and if you can't, I'll just talk. You can listen to my voice anyway. Great. So sit down comfortably. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. And as you exhale, relax your body as I bring attention to different parts of your body, starting from your scalp, the skin covering your head. Relax your forehead, smooth your eyebrows, feel your eyelids relaxing. Take another deep breath. Relax the muscles of your face. Bring a soft smile. A soft smile always relaxes the muscles of your face and the tissues in your face. And with the next exhale, relax your throat, neck, and shoulders. Relax your arms, hands, fingers. Take another deep breath. Relax your chest, your spine, your abdomen and pelvic area. Be conscious of your breathing, rhythmic and gentle. And now, relax your thighs, knees, calves, and feet. Your body is now completely relaxed. Keep breathing slowly and rhythmically. We'll now focus on relaxing your mind. Visualize yourself standing in a big room with white walls all around and a huge glass window. You're standing at the window, staring outside. You can see mountains and a gentle stream flowing down. It's a beautiful sunny day. And just like this white room with the window of opportunity, so is your mind. Feel your mind letting go of all the thoughts, the burdens, the emotions, and just see it plain and white with this window of opportunity. Take another deep breath. And now with your hands, just hold your shoulders. Give yourself a gentle hug. Say to yourself, I love myself and accept myself as I am. I know that just like this window of opportunity, there is so much infinite potential out there as I open my mind to receiving. I know that I deserve the best. I'm capable of doing the best and experiencing the best. Say to yourself, I love myself, I believe in myself, and I'm capable and deserving of fulfilling all my dreams. Every single day, I find evidence of how I'm contributing, adding value, growing. May every day bring the opportunity where I find this evidence and I record this evidence. And along the journey, my glass is slowly full, so full that it overflows and helps to fill other glasses that need to be filled. I have so much abundance that I'm capable of giving others and of genuinely adding value and helping others. When your growth contributes to others, it adds so much more to your own self-esteem. You're all capable of growing every single day. And now, slowly, I will bring you out of this meditation gently. You may relax your hands, take a deep breath, and as I count you out slowly from 1 to 5, at the count of 5, you'll open your eyes, feeling optimistic, rejuvenated, starting something new in your life from today. 1, 2, 3, coming out slowly, 4, 5, eyes open and awake, feeling rejuvenated. I hope you liked that meditation and got some value out of that, got a new perspective. So let me know what you thought with your comments in the chat. We're nearly towards the end, and I'll ask Jayanti and Naina to share some of the summary of today's session.
Yeah, before we go to the summary, I would like to give the interpretation of the three set of scores we have got, and then what do we do about it, and what does it indicate for ourselves. So it's a different need for everybody, where their self-love journey has to start, or where their self journey has to be enhanced. So if a score of P is highest, some people might have the score of P is highest. So for them, the journey starts with it is like, I am neglecting myself at the cost of pleasing others. I come from that belief that I must please others first. So here I have to be, be very kind, like what Jayanti has mentioned, that I have to be kinder to myself, and I have to practice that exercise, that micro journaling, always, like, when a kind friend is talking to me, when because the beliefs I have is like, I must, if you refer to these sentences which we had, like for the sentence which I must, this kind of a uh, compulsion that I must not hurt others. See, I have an intention of not hurting others, but this must is a very stronger kind of compulsion on me, that sometimes some people may get hurt, but then, it is okay. Like, getting hurt is not, some people getting hurt is not always my responsibility. It is of that other person also. If a person gets hurt at the drop of a uh, you know thing, like, so the person has a tendency to get hurt at anything, and I must not take that responsibility onto myself always. So when that word must comes in, that's more of a concern. I always have the intention of not hurting others, that's fine, but sometimes if some people get hurt, I don't have to take the onus every time on me. So this Peace Corps higher is more of a person. I would suggest that when Peace Corps is very high, I have to come out of that, being more kind to myself, being thinking in the position of considering my self worth, and whatever we talked about, how to enhance my self worth. Then, if suppose my AG score is higher in comparison to other scores, that is coming from that I have been suppressing myself a lot, denying myself a lot. So it happens that many times this happens to me, that without any warranty, even any warning, some behavior of mine surprises myself also, that how did I do that, why did I reacted that way, why did I responded that way. So it is like, many times I have suppressed, I have not been kind to myself. So it happens that in situations I react, I respond in a very harsh way for others. So that is also a point where I am going to the other extreme. So as Jayanti was also mentioning somewhere, like we have to find somewhere in between position. So if my AS score is higher, then probably I am doing a good job with myself, and I would like to see that, I can continue on the same path. So just have to judge your own score for yourself. You just have to see where my inclinations are, and then we can uh, do certain things in that direction, so that my AS scores uh, goes up and my self love is enhanced.
Thanks,
Yes,
Naina.
Kalyan.
I thought it was really good, the scoring system. So I think for me, I had a pretty high AS score, but I also had almost similarly high P score. So I think it's really good reflection, because I believe I know for a fact about myself that I do have a tendency to be a people pleaser. So it's really good assessment to start being aware of that. And yeah, I'm getting better and better. So hopefully it's good reflection to see where you stand. I think on a particular day the score might change also. So yeah,
Right.
I would
So,
love people do this assessment. If some of the people who are not here today, who are listening to this on YouTube later, or people who have missed the beginning of this webinar, like Swati was saying, I think even Gayatri missed it. If they did attempt this test at a later point and they would want to share about what they thought about it, how that helped them reflect, it will be so nice to hear. And also with the journaling and other things, if they found it useful, please write to us on our Instagram page, or connect with us and let us know if this has been of any value to you in any way. So I think I'll move on to the summary now. So I think the key points that we discussed today about self-love, we discussed a lot about what self-love is not. But the gist of what self-love is that basically understanding that you're lovable, you're worthy, you're deserving. These are all very, very healthy thoughts to start with. Second thing is looking for evidence. So I think there's plenty of evidence to know that we are worthy, we're lovable, etc., etc. But sometimes we forget. Very often we forget. And the thing is, like what Kalyani said about the red car. You're planning to buy a red car, you're going to see red cars everywhere. So why not consciously start looking for evidence of these things? If we start consciously looking for evidence of these things, we'll see more of it. And our beliefs are all about how what kind of evidence we see, and when we start confirming those things to ourselves, our beliefs change, and our beliefs shape our reality, right? We all know that. So start focusing on looking for evidence for small things. Every time you notice something that makes you feel like you are loved, you're worthwhile, you're adequate, take a note of it in your mind. You don't even have to write it in a journal. Just remember that. Pause for a moment and remember, today's I'm really grateful today. This made me feel worthy, or this made me feel adequate. This made me feel lovable. So, and the universe will definitely show you more and more of that. The other thing was self-compassion, the 3 components of self-compassion. I really strongly urge you all to go to Dr. Christine Neff's website to do the self-compassion exercises every now and then. It's something that I've been doing for, I think, almost the last 1 year. Every time I have a meeting or something important, I go to the website and I just randomly pick an exercise that I want to do for self-compassion. So the 3 components: kindness, empathy, mindfulness. Just even her TED talk is really nice to just inspire you to think more compassionately towards yourself. And then the small practices really count. We think life is about the big events, but life is really about the small things. Life is just about how we live every day. And every day there's like little things that we can do for practicing self-love. What Gayatri spoke about earlier about small practices of self-care, mindfully taking care of yourself is an act of self-love. Just reflecting upon where you stand is an act of self-love to begin with. So little things make a big difference. So do the little practices of self-care, and yeah, hope that makes us better and kinder versions of ourselves. Like I said before, oftentimes people think that will it make me very self-indulgent, will it make me narcissist? But I don't think that's how the world works, right? There's research and there's plenty of evidence, and you'll see for yourself that once you start being kinder to yourself, you'll be kinder to other people by default. So we can move to the next slide where all the links are that people have been asking for. Yep.
Yep.
So,
Thank you, Jayanti. So yes, you can see that Dr. Christine Ness, Christine Neff. Sorry, my bad. It's her TED talk is the space between self-esteem and self-compassion, and love Gayatri's comment. The biggest act of self-care is seeing my therapist. Absolutely, yeah, really. Really great point there. And not having any sort of, and Jayanti is a big advocate of this, not having any sort of, I don't know what the right word I'm looking for. Yeah, hesitation. Yeah, that's true. Of sharing that you are able to seek help where you need to, and where you feel like you're lacking and you want to get better. So it's only the best intention that you're doing it with, which is great. So thank you for that, Gayatri, and thank you, Jayanti. So there's some Instagram links that we have for you, the handles there. So as I said, Mind Valley, if you are interested in personal growth and interested in, they've got a variety of speakers and subject matter experts, whether it's to do with abundance, whether it's to do with improving finances, whether it's to do with more confidence, becoming a better leader, speaker, your health, doing simple meditation techniques. They've got a really wide variety of programs, and they've got huge loads of free content, which is great as well. And then there's Janine. Janine is our mentor, our coach, who taught us the Silver Method, and she also does free webinars every first Monday of the month, Meaningful Mondays, and we highly recommend you join. Janine is an amazing speaker. You look at Janine and you think her self-love must be really great because it just shines through and you're so inspired. Just being with her in that energy itself, you'll be motivated to do more self-love practices, definitely. And then Christina Mann, the lady I was talking about, who did the experiment of recording your self-talk and asking a friend to read it to you. Kamal Ravikant is another guy who wrote a book called Love Yourself Like Your Life Depends on It. I haven't read the book, so I don't know, but the guy he's quirky and he's really good. Very simple. What he talks about is very simple, and you think it can't be that simple, but yet it is. And then obviously there's heaps of tools, and then there's a blog. So today's meditation was kind of inspired by the Mind Valley blog about self-love. And then the assessment test that Naina did, she's got a reference there of Sylvia Richard-Kopp as well. So, and there's heaps, obviously, if you Google. Yes, he's a quirky guy, Kamal Ravikant, I agree. So, I mean, there's absolutely no shortage of information, and when you see it, you'll keep finding lots of things. But I do encourage you to start with small activities, and just keeping notes of the evidence that you see around that itself is really healthy and will boost your self-esteem. Naina and Jayanti, anything else to say before we wrap up?
I would like to suggest a simple way of everyday practicing self-love is like at the end of the day, just pat yourself and say, done a good job today, whatever.
Very simple indeed. And even if you have not had such a great day, you can, there's bound to be something that you've done well. And the thing is, actually, I read this statistic somewhere where I can't remember the percentage now, but apparently there's a lot more that we have done well than not well. But the attention is being this self-critic. You'll always start focusing on where did I not do good enough or where did I go wrong. But try to bring your awareness back to what it is that you've done well, even if it's just something routine, and pat yourself on the back. Yes, I agree. Anything else you would like to add, Jayanti?
No, that's about it. I think it was such a great webinar, and I love speaking on this subject of self-love because it has been an absolute game changer for me in my life personally. The day I could tell myself that I love myself was the day my life changed. So sounds very dramatic, but it's actually true. It can make so much difference, and we underestimate the power of self-love. So I just want to thank everyone for doing this today, whoever was here, whoever is going to listen to this at some point of time. Great job. It's a really important thing. So please don't forget to love yourselves.
Great.
Perfect. Thanks. I'll hand over to Sachin to wrap up. And thank you everyone for attending today. And I hope you got value out of it. Stay tuned for our upcoming sessions. And in the meantime, please connect with us. You can always listen to our previous sessions from last year on YouTube and also connect with us through Instagram.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Naina, Kalyani, and Jayanti for another fabulous webinar. And for everyone's knowledge, this webinar will be recorded and uploaded on our YouTube channel, which is Teja Discover Radiant. And like Kalyani mentioned, do follow us on Instagram as well, which is also Teja Discover Radiant. And if you want to write to us or suggest any topic you would like Kalyani, Jayanti, and Naina to cover, write to them at tejadiscoverradiant@gmail.com. Thank you everyone once again, and good night.